Have you ever thought about how a single clumsy mistake from like 50 years ago could shape everything from your internet connection to your business insurance policy today? It sounds kind of wild, but it's a true story about a small accident with absolutely massive, lasting consequences.
But before we get into all that, I want you to think about this question right here. If someone's carelessness shuts down your business for a day, and you literally can't make or sell anything, should they be on the hook for every single cent of profit you lost? Just keep that in the back of your mind because it is the absolute heart of this entire story.
All right, so let's set this scene. We're going back to the early 1970s, right in the industrial heart of Birmingham, England. Picture a factory that never sleeps, a place just filled with constant noise, heat, and production.
This is Spartan Steel and Alloys, and their entire operation, their whole business really, hangs on one single massive, power-hungry piece of equipment, an electric arc furnace. I mean, this thing's a beast. It melts down scrap metal to create stainless steel. And here's the crucial part. Once a melt is started, that's it. It's the point of no return. You absolutely cannot stop it halfway through.
Okay, so now just down the road, we meet our second player, a company called Martin & Company. They're just a construction contractor doing what seems like totally routine road work. You know, they've got their power shovel, they've got a job to do. Just another ordinary day at the office. Or so they thought.
And then, at 3:35 in the afternoon, bam, disaster strikes. The shovel operator digs just a little too deep and slices right through the one single main power cable that feeds the entire Spartan Steel factory. In an instant, the furnace goes dark. That constant roar of the factory is just replaced by this eerie, sudden silence. And it would stay that way for over 14 agonizingly long hours.
So, with the power finally back on and all the damage assessed, Spartan Steel did what, any business would do. They sued Martin & Company. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a simple lawsuit. They broke down their losses into three very distinct and, as we'll see, very important claims.
So first up, the most straightforward claim. When the power died, all that molten steel that was inside the furnace just cooled and solidified into a giant, useless, unsellable lump. The value of that ruined metal was 368 pounds. Super clear case of direct physical damage to their property. Easy enough.
Next, they claimed the profit they would have made from selling that specific, now ruined batch of steel. See, this wasn't just the cost of the metal itself, but the money they lost because they couldn't actually sell the finished product. That came to 400 pounds. And this loss was a direct consequence of that physical damage. Still makes sense, right?
And then came the third claim. The one that would literally change legal history. Spartan Steel also sued for the profit they lost on all the other batches of steel they could have made and sold during those 14.5 hours the power was out. And this was a much, much bigger number, 1,767 pounds.
Okay, so the court's decision is where this whole thing gets really, really interesting. They looked at these three claims and basically drew a line in the sand. They said, yep, you can get the money for the ruined steel. And sure, you can get the profit you lost on that ruined steel. But that third claim, the big one, for 1,767 pounds for all the lost profits during the shutdown? The court said absolutely not. The big question is, why?
This put the court in a really tricky spot. I mean, they had to come up with a clear reason, a guiding principle, that would justify saying yes to some of the money, but no to the rest. They needed a logical, defensible way to separate these different kinds of financial loss. And the concept they landed on is what you see right here, pure economic loss. This is the key legal term from this whole case, so remember it. It's a financial loss that isn't tied directly to any physical damage to your own property. It's just the money you didn't make simply because something stopped you from doing business. Let's break this down with a super simple pizza analogy to make it crystal clear. On the left, you've got consequential loss. Let's say your driver drops a pizza. That's your property, and it's damaged. You can totally sue for the profit you lost on that one ruined pizza. But on the right, we have pure economic loss. Imagine a power cut shuts your whole shop down for an hour. None of your property is actually damaged, but you couldn't make and sell, say, 20 pizzas in that time. The law says you generally can't sue for the profit on those 20 pizzas. That is the crucial difference.
So, why draw this line here? Well, the most famous explanation came from the head judge on the case, a legal giant in England, a guy named Lord Denning. He was really worried about what he called the floodgates.
He argued that, look, as a matter of public policy, you just have to draw a line somewhere. If you allowed anyone to sue for pure economic loss, where would it possibly end? He famously said,
It's better to put up with the loss than to have a field of litigation which might be endless. In other words, he was terrified of just completely overwhelming the legal system.
And you can totally see what he meant here. I mean, if Spartan Steel could sue, then why not their suppliers who lost out on an order that day? What about Spartan's customers who didn't get their steel delivery on time? And then what about their customers whose own production lines got delayed? The ripple effect could just go on and on forever. The court decided to stop it dead at that first ripple.
And this decision, which became known as the Spartan Steel Doctrine, wasn't just some one-off thing. It became a fundamental principle of negligence law in many, many parts of the world. It is a rule that we all still live by today.
So here's the rule boiled down into a simple checklist. Step 1, was there physical damage to your property? Step 2, was there a financial loss that came as a direct result of that specific damage? If you could say yes to both, you can probably get your money back. But step 4 is the kicker. If the financial loss is just floating out there on its own, separate from any physical damage, well, that's pure economic loss, and you generally have to eat that cost yourself.
And this is why it is so incredibly important today. You might be wondering, why should I care? Well, this rule is the very reason businesses buy something called business interruption insurance, because they know they can't just sue the power company for all their lost profits. It's what limits who can sue when a major internet cable gets cut, affecting thousands of online businesses. It forces companies to plan for things going wrong instead of just hoping for a lawsuit lottery win.
And that brings us to one final, really crucial question. The court back in 1973 was worried about a power cut to a single factory. But today, a single server outage at a company like Amazon or Google can cause billions in pure economic loss across the entire globe in a matter of seconds. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world built on intangible data and services, does a rule based on physical damage still make sense? Is the line they drew 50 years ago still in the right place, or is it maybe time for a change?